Oh, her warning.
Yeah, this is a girl who says that man
well,
has trouble.
This did happen to me, and it was a he. And I went right ahead and married the guy, and it was Gary.
A strong, intelligent, and deeply compassionate woman. She laughed and joked in front of millions of Americans every week through the television screen. She built the media empire Desilu Studios from nothing but her own two hands. She is an icon. She is a legend. But behind that smile, hidden deep within the soul of the woman whom all of America loved, there existed secrets that she never spoke of in public. Secrets about the true nature of Hollywood people. Before leaving this world in 1989, Lucille Ball confided in private conversations that she had met, worked with, and witnessed actors whom she was certain were truly cruel in real life. Not on the screen, not in staged roles, but in the way they treated the ordinary people around them. And among all those names, there was one who made her angrier than all the rest. Today, we will journey together into the mysterious world behind the dazzling lights of Hollywood. We will listen to the stories that Lucille Ball carried with her throughout her life, and we will ask ourselves, does the outer glamour ever reflect the inner truth? If you are a lover of Hollywood history, you have surely heard the name Joan Crawford. She is an icon of America's golden age of cinema. Flowing hair, sharp eyes, a haughty demeanor like a queen. On screen, Crawford was the embodiment of strength, allure, and untouchable beauty. Audiences across America admired her. The press praised her. Hollywood honored her, but Lucille Ball did not. Lucy had met Crawford many times throughout her career years, and each time she came away with a heavy, chilling feeling that was hard to put into words. She once whispered to a close friend, "All she has is glamour. Beneath that layer, it's all ice cold." That feeling of Lucy's was etched deeply and became an obsession in 1971 when Crawford appeared as a guest on the show. Here's Lucy. From the moment Crawford set foot on the set, the atmosphere changed. She demanded that the room temperature be maintained exactly at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. She demanded that her chair be placed at the right angle. She demanded that the lights be adjusted to suit her face. Lucy didn't object. In Hollywood, such special requests were not uncommon. Big stars often had their own demands, and that was an inseparable part of the industry. But what happened next was different. A young wardrobe assistant, only 22 years old, brought Crawford a dress. The dress was beautiful, elegant, perfect by every standard. Except for one small detail. On the fabric, there was a tiny wrinkle, so small that almost no one could see it unless they leaned in close. Crawford saw it. Instead of politely pointing out the issue and asking for it to be fixed, Crawford hurled insults straight at the young girl's face. Cruel words, sharp as knives. The girl burst into tears right there, and Crawford turned and demanded that Lucy fire that assistant immediately. Lucy refused, but that wasn't what truly shocked Lucy. What she couldn't forget was the moment right after. The cameras started rolling, and Joan Crawford transformed completely. Suddenly, she became warm, graceful, radiant, a wide smile, a gentle voice, sparkling eyes. This was the Joan Crawford that all of America knew and loved. For Lucille Ball, that was the moment she understood it all. This wasn't a real change. This was an act. Crawford wasn't showing her true self. She was performing a role she had perfected over decades, the role of a star worthy of admiration. Lucy later whispered to her loved ones, "I've worked with mannequins in clothing store windows, and I can tell you they feel more human than Joan Crawford." From that day on, Lucy was convinced of one thing. Crawford wasn't simply cold. She was acting kindness, not truly feeling it. And in Lucille Ball's eyes, that was the most terrifying truth she had ever witnessed in Hollywood. The way a person treats those without power is the true measure of their character. And by that standard, Joan Crawford had failed completely. When mentioning the name Judy Garland, Lucille Ball's voice changed entirely. No more anger, no more cold contempt like when speaking of Crawford. Instead, only a weary disappointment, so deep it sounded like an unhealed wound. Lucy had known Garland from the early days when both worked at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's studio. She admired Garland deeply. Judy Garland's voice was a rare gift that God only bestows on a select few in this life, and the emotional power in each of her performances made millions of hearts ache. But Lucy also saw what the audience never got to see. Judy Garland was someone who couldn't control herself. Missed filming sessions, arriving hours late without clear reason. The entire film crew, from director to cable puller, had to stand waiting in vain, not knowing if their star would show up or not. The story that haunted Lucille Ball the most came from a television director who recounted it to her in a private evening. On that filming day, Judy Garland was scheduled to arrive at 5 in the morning. The whole crew was there on time. The lighting system was set up. Cameras were ready. Makeup was waiting. Scripts were memorized. And they waited. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Nearly 9 hours later, Judy Garland walked onto the set. She was radiant. She apologized sincerely. And then, in the next 30 minutes, she delivered a performance so perfect that it left everyone in the room breathless. It was a moment that reminded all why Judy Garland was an irreplaceable legend. But after that, she stopped abruptly, said she was too tired to continue, then left. The next day, 3 members of the film crew were fired. The reason? Production had gone over budget while waiting for the star. That was the moment Lucille Ball couldn't forgive. Not because Garland was late, not because she had personal problems that the whole world knew about, but because ordinary people who had arrived on time, done their jobs right, had to pay the price for the chaos someone else created. Lucy stated in a private dinner, "Talent should never be an excuse for causing destruction." She never confronted Garland publicly, but she quietly made an unchangeable decision. She would never work with Judy Garland again. When Judy Garland passed away in 1969, Lucy lamented the extraordinary talent the world had just lost. But that regret couldn't erase the memories she carried. But when it came to Ava Gardner, Lucy's emotions were very different. Gardner possessed a beauty that Hollywood rarely produced. Wild, intense, and capable of taking anyone's breath away in a moment. On screen, she was the queen of seduction. In real life, she was the subject of countless legendary stories. But to Lucille Ball, Ava Gardner was something entirely different. Lucy believed that Gardner wasn't just cold or careless. She believed that Gardner found real joy in humiliating others. The moment that etched that into Lucy's mind happened in the mid-1960s, at a costume fitting at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's studio. Lucy was standing nearby, observing. A young assistant brought Gardner a dress that had just been ironed. On the seam of the dress, there was a slight stretch from the fabric being ironed too long. The flaw was almost invisible. Most people wouldn't see it unless they leaned in close. Gardner saw it. She looked at the dress. Then she stared at the assistant from head to toe, with eyes cold as steel. Then she said, in a slow and sharp tone, "Don't bother fixing it. You can't cure incompetence with more incompetence." The young assistant stood frozen. The whole room became silent. Lucy, observing from the other side, felt a wave of nausea rising in her chest. Not because of Gardner's words, but because of what she saw in that woman's eyes. Satisfaction. Gardner wasn't just reacting to a small mistake. She was enjoying the moment. Later, in a private conversation, Lucy said, "Ava Gardner doesn't make mistakes. She creates victims." And not long after, at an industry cocktail party, when someone casually mentioned Lucille Ball's name in conversation, Gardner was reported to have smirked mockingly and said loudly enough for the whole room to hear, "Oh, that has-been clown. Is she still working?" The room fell silent in shock. But Gardner showed no surprise or regret. Lucy never forgave that. She told her close friend, "If Ava Gardner didn't have that beauty, no one in Hollywood could tolerate the way she treats others. Her beauty is the shield that protects her from all consequences." And that, according to Lucy, was the most terrifying thing. Another actress who left a deep impression on Lucille Ball was Bette Davis, one of the greatest actresses in American film history. No one can deny that. Her talent was rare, unique, and unlearnable. Her screen presence was something that made filmmakers bow in respect. Hollywood gave her 2 Oscars. History records her as an irreplaceable legend. But Lucille Ball once asked a friend straight out, "Why does Bette seem to find joy in hurting others?" Lucy didn't say this lightly. She said it with the real disappointment and confusion of someone who had tried many times to understand, but couldn't. The moment that etched that view into Lucy's mind happened at an industry dinner in the mid-1960s. A young waiter brought the wrong bottle of wine to Davis's table. It was a small mistake, the kind that can happen to anyone in any restaurant. What should have happened normally was the waiter apologizes, brings back the right bottle, and everything continues as usual. But that's not what happened. Davis began interrogating the waiter, her tone sharp and full of contempt. He apologized once. She continued. He apologized a second time, his voice trembling. She still didn't stop, questioning whether he could read the wine label or not. The whole room gradually fell into an awkward silence as people around started looking toward that table. Lucy observed it all in unconcealable astonishment. This wasn't a momentary temper. This wasn't a star having a bad day. This was something else. Afterward, Davis noticed Lucy observing from across the room. She raised her glass with a faint smile. To others, it might have been a friendly greeting. To Lucy, that smile carried another layer of meaning, one she chose not to respond to. Later, in a private conversation, Lucy said this about the difference between Crawford and Davis. Crawford can be cold, but Davis seems to truly find joy in inflicting wounds. For Lucille Ball, that was the most important distinction, and it was also the reason she kept her distance from Davis for the rest of her career, always polite when necessary, but never truly close. Another name that elicited a strong reaction from Lucy was Zsa Zsa Gabor. When this woman's name was mentioned in conversation, Lucille Ball's first reaction wasn't a sigh, wasn't an angry look. Her first reaction was laughter, but it wasn't joyful laughter. Gabor was a Hollywood phenomenon in her own way. Glamorous, colorful, always appearing like a queen stepping out from a book page. A voice with a seductive European accent, lavish outfits, dazzling diamonds, and a wide smile that never faded. To Lucille Ball, all of that was a performance. Not a performance done in front of cameras, but a performance carried out in every second of real life, to the point where the performer no longer knew what was real and what was fake. The event that shaped Lucy's view of Gabor happened in the late 1960s at a major Hollywood charity event. The evening began like any other lavish event. Dazzling lights, gorgeous outfits, gentle music from the chamber orchestra, and Zsa Zsa Gabor appeared as if she had just stepped off magazine covers, covered in diamonds and fur, smiling at every camera as if each photo was a gift she was bestowing upon humanity. But when the cameras were put away, the atmosphere changed. An event volunteer, whose job was to guide guests to their seats, politely approached and offered to show Gabor the way. Gabor's response said loudly and clearly, "I don't sit with commoners." Lucy, standing from across the room, heard it all. But that wasn't the worst part. A little later, another volunteer, a young girl about 20 years old, accidentally brushed against Gabor's fur coat while passing by. The girl quickly apologized. Gabor didn't respond to that apology with forgiveness. Instead, she leaned in close to the girl, and in a gentle tone like confiding, she said, "Darling, if you touch my coat one more time, I'll make sure you never work at any event in this city again." And what Lucy couldn't forget, throughout the time saying those words, Gabor was still smiling. After the event, Lucy told a colleague, "Nothing about Zsa Zsa Gabor is real. Not the voice, not the elegance, and certainly not the kindness she shows in front of everyone." And Lucy added something that made the listener pause to think. Fake cruelty is the most dangerous kind, because it comes with a smile, and that smile fools everyone. When Zsa Zsa Gabor became famous across America in 1989 for slapping a Beverly Hills police officer, Lucille Ball's reaction was recorded as completely calm. She simply said, "Finally, the world gets to see the real person I've known for a long time." Looking back at all these stories, what's remarkable isn't the names of those involved. Joan Crawford, Judy Garland, Ava Gardner, Bette Davis, Zsa Zsa Gabor. These are names etched into history, icons, legends, people whom millions of Americans loved and admired over decades. But Lucille Ball saw something else. She saw how they treated a 22-year-old assistant who only brought a dress with a small wrinkle. She saw how ordinary workers had to pay the price for the chaos of the famous. She saw how beauty and power could become shields for cruelty. She saw how a smile could hide the worst in people. And in all that she saw, she drew a principle that she lived by throughout her life. The way you treat those without power is the true measure of your character, not how you treat famous colleagues, not how you behave in front of cameras, not the image you build in public, but how you treat the waiter who brings the wrong bottle of wine, how you treat the young assistant bringing an imperfect dress, how you treat the 20-year-old volunteer trying to do her job well. Lucille Ball built her career not just on talent. She built it on discipline, reliability, and compassion. In an industry famous for lacking those virtues, she survived everything Hollywood threw at her. She overcame all the barriers the world placed before a woman who wanted to control her own career. She became a legend not because she was perfect, but because she truly believed in what she said. And the stories she left behind, the stories about Crawford, about Garland, about Gardner, about Davis, about Gabor, are not stories of hatred or jealousy. These are stories about witnessing the truth and not being able to pretend you didn't see it. Stage lights can hide a lot, but when the lights go out, the real person emerges. And Lucille Ball, throughout her life, chose to look straight at that real person, no matter how painful it was. That is the true legacy she left. Not just the comedy episodes that made all of America laugh, but also the reminder that true greatness never needs to be built on putting others down. If you feel this story touches something in your soul, please share it with those you love. And don't forget to leave a comment letting us know, among all the names Lucille Ball mentioned, who surprises you the most. Thank you for joining us today. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next stories from the mysterious world behind Hollywood's lights.